Another Halloween is returning. Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Halloween is returning. How the hell has it already been a year? This is crazy. But it's true, the next big patch for Guild Wars 2 is the return of Halloween. This was the first major event to be released for the game. Of course, we're getting one every 2 weeks now, but do expect Halloween to be pretty big because they can actually reuse a lot of stuff from last year. This time around, it's called Blood and Madness. Arenanet just put out the release page. You can find a link in the description, but I'm going to read between the lines for you guys and try and draw out a little bit more information on what exactly we're going to be getting. So this starts October 15th. The Halloween event returns. Last year, it released in 4 acts worth of content, and there's been no sign of that on this release page, so I'm not sure how much we're going to get, how front-loaded it's going to be, whether on the 15th we just get absolutely everything, or they are going to be doing acts again. But regardless, there will be a lot to do on the 15th, as this release page seems to suggest. So the tagline for it is, "A grim spectre lurks in the shadows of the Mad King's past. The Bloody Prince is coming to Tyria." And the Bloody Prince, I will get into in just a second, but this is, of course, not Mad King Thorn. This is his son, and this is what the event seems to be about. So, the release page then takes us through to say, the Bloody Prince emerges. Halloween is drawing near, and Magister Darcy's instruments are picking up some unusual energy readings. The Mad King isn't the only one breaking through the barrier between realms. Prepare to face the son of Oswald Thorn, Bloody Prince Edrick. And this is pretty interesting. First of all, this mention about Magister Darcy. For those of you who don't remember or couldn't play in Halloween last year, this was an Asuran woman that was a member of the Dermond Priory that came to Lion's Arch and basically gave us the Guild Wars 2 equivalent of a traditional quest. They really shy away from that kind of thing, and they did a lot of it through mails. But we had like a proper full-on quest thing last year where we had to travel to different areas of the world and find things in a similar way that you'd expect traditional quests that I really, really enjoyed. So it sounds like Magister Darcy is actually coming back, and it won't be the same stuff as we got last year, where we were wandering around trying to dive into the history of Mad King Thorn. It actually looks like we may have completely different quests, to pilfer the term, even though they're not necessarily quests, to play this time. Now, last year the idea was, she explained she'd basically acquired some tech that could scan for very old energies, and actually reading that now, it makes me realise one of the early personal story stuff for Asuran characters has you holding a very old energy detector, so I guess it's supposed to be the same thing. But she's actually repurposed this device to scan for very old energy, and through this device we found excerpts from Mad King Thorn's journal and learnt more about him and potentially how to stop him from breaking through out of his realm and into ours last year. Another little interesting thing about that detector as well, in terms of the current living story, is it scans for what she calls 4 categories of oldness. Okay, water, gas, solids, and the last one is ether. In a video just this week, I was talking to you guys about the difference between aether and ether, and I find it interesting that, again, we have that term pop up here, but here in a completely different context, like it's just a very old thing that you can measure somehow. Anyway, like I say, this is Magister Darcy. She will probably be back with new quests. It will be nice to see if the old quests return too. People don't like to see that content gets thrown out, but maybe it wouldn't make sense to have last year's events going on at the same time as this year's events, though they never shied away from that in Guild Wars 1. In Guild Wars 1, by like 4 Halloweens down the row, you had just a bazillion quests you could do that canonically took place years and years prior, like they were 4 years ago in the Tyria timeline, but you could do it all at once and in any order you liked, and I enjoyed that. So I'd like to see the old quests remain as well, but of course we're all quite excited about what the new ones are going to teach us. Let me repeat this: the Mad King isn't the only one breaking through the barrier between realms this year. Prepare to face the son of Oswald Thorn, Bloody Prince Edrick. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. I have never heard of Bloody Prince Edrick in my life. That's pretty interesting to me, because Mad King Thorn has always been one of those characters in this universe that we have tons of unnecessary information about. We know so much about this guy's life, okay? This is the reveal that he has a son, and we've never heard of this son before. He had an older brother who was supposed to be the king of Kryta until Oswald Thorn got him killed by luring him into a spider's web. He had a father who he also had killed shortly shortly before he became king. He married 8 separate times, and we know specifically who 2 of those wives are, so maybe it's reasonable to believe he had a child since he was with so many women, but we never heard of any child. It seems like a little bit to me of maybe a bit of a Henry VIII kind of thing going on. You know, he has many wives, but only one legitimate successor to the throne, and that would be bloody Prince Edrick. Very interesting. Edrick isn't even a name that we've ever heard in passing in either the first game or the second game, so it'll be kind of cool to see where they go with this. There has always been a bit of a gap in the lore where Oswald was meant to be king of Krita, okay? This means that he was descended from King Doric, and he had legitimate royal blood, presumably. But then we hear about how he's this corrupt king that just got killed and overthrown. Well, the lore would suggest that he did actually have a son, because someone had to continue the line of Krita after he was gone. But they never really established that. So maybe bloody Prince Edrick is the missing piece to that puzzle, but then bloody Prince Edrick too seems to be in cahoots with King Thorn, and he wasn't a good guy anyway. And at the end of the day, he's still called Prince Edrick, so did he ever take to the throne? So maybe we won't get that puzzle piece, but it is some interesting stuff to look into for the lore, and maybe where the story will go when we get in there. I'm also curious about then whether the Mad King himself will be particularly present, or it's just going to be a lot to do with his son during this update. I love Mad King Thorn. I think it would be a big mistake not to throw him in, so I'm sure they probably will. Everyone loved his voice actor last year. There were so many people asking on the forums, who voice acted this guy? Who voice acted this guy? I also, before reading this release page, really like the idea of some involvement between Scarlet Briar and Mad King Thorn. Those 2 personalities fit together really well. They're both chaotic, evil characters in very similar ways. He would be a very fitting Joker if she's sort of the Harley Quinn of Tyria, and that works even better because he actually tells jokes, right? So I think that would have been really good, but they might not be going that angle at all. They might have just had their own canned little story they want to do, again with another Living Story update that's about something totally different to the rest of the Living World things. Anyway, that's basically everything I can get from the lore and predict with what's going on. My only other idea would be perhaps Oswald Thorne's son coming forward is another sign that the barrier between these 2 realms is getting thinner. If you guys aren't aware, Halloween is a long-standing storyline that has been going on in the Guild Wars franchise for years now. It's a long story about a group of people, the Lunatic Inquisition, who are trying to bring this corrupt, this evil king back to life all year round. There are various seals keeping him within his realm, but every now and then, as the franchise has progressed, we the players have done something that's broken another one of these seals. For example, the ascension of Queen Salma to the throne of Krita back during Guild Wars 1. And every year that Halloween comes back, they progress that story a little bit further, until eventually this guy could escape from his realm. Now we have his son escaping too. This could be a sign that the barriers are getting weaker. And yes, indeed, the Lunatic Inquisition will be back for this patch, so we'll see what they have to say about all of this. The release page then goes on to just tell us some of the features that we can expect to be returning since last year. The first of these being the Mad Realm doors. Haunted doors are appearing all over Krita, where brave travellers can dare to trick or treat. If you never got to play last year, these were doors that spawned all over explorable areas in Tyria, and you could interact with them to open the door up, and you'd get either a treat, which would be like some of the Halloween goods, or a trick, which would spawn an event of some kind where lots of mobs would flood out of the door, and you'd get to fight them, again killing them, getting more Halloween loot anyway, but also an event completion. Some of the enemies that were coming out of those doors as well were gargoyles. Gargoyles are really mysterious creatures in this universe. Back during the first game, they were all over the place, and then they mysteriously vanished. And there's a particular Char NPC you can speak to in the Black Citadel who talks to you about how the gargoyles just upped and left. They just vanished off of this plane of existence. And it's this big mystery. I did a full video in my Guild Wars Mystery series on that exact topic a while back. One thing that was interesting last year, though, was that these gargoyles randomly reappeared. They were, for some reason, a part of the Halloween event, and they were coming out of Mad King Thorn's doors. They were there, but we never got an explanation as to why. This year, again, is another opportunity for Arenanet to maybe explain what that mystery is all about. Are we going to get the answers? My gut says no. My gut says we're just going to see gargoyles around, but maybe they'll tie it in somehow to bloody Prince Edrick. Like, Edrick wanted a gift last year, and he decided to just take a bunch of gargoyles, and then that was that. You know, even that I'd be happy, because we'd have the conclusion to the mystery. The next section of the release page reads, the Mad King's Labyrinth. The Bloody Prince has taken over a part of the Mad King's Labyrinth. He's controlling the undead armies in the Mad King's realm, while his father retains command of the plastic spiders candy corn elementals, and other festive frights. The skeletal lich, Grand High Viscount of Candy Corn, and the Labyrinth Horror await interlopers. So it sounds like these are 3 new enemies, unless I'm terribly mistaken, and they were there last year. 3 new enemies that are going to be under the Prince's control. I like the idea that Mad King Thorn doesn't have all the big scary things. He's just got all of the fun little stupid candy corn enemies just because he's chaotic like that. I really enjoy that idea. But the Labyrinth, again, if you didn't get to play last year, guys, this was the Halloween equivalent of the Crown Pavilion patch. This was the farm area. This was an entirely new zone in the Mad Realm that players could travel to, and it was full of events and full of interesting enemies, and even early on, a really cool chest that you could open with a really high chance to get an exotic that was later nerfed. But that was like a farm area, and it was, for the state of the game last year, very effective in being a farm area. This year, I would very much expect to see a lot more champions around, because that's what people like to farm, and I think we may see the equivalent of the Crown Pavilion come back. So for those of you who really like the farm patches, the Labyrinth could be a very cool place. Also, side note, found this out the other day, I thought I'd impart a little bit of trivia. Labyrinth doesn't actually mean maze, or historically it didn't mean maze. A labyrinth was a maze-like area, but if you just keep going forward, you're supposed to always get out. Like, if you never go left, never go right, you just keep going forward, you always get out of a labyrinth. And they were specifically different to mazes, which I never knew before, and now you guys know as well. Okay, next bit of the release page. Mad King's Clock Tower. Yay! Are we really this excited about this? Race against the rising madness in the Mad King's Clock Tower. Tyria's most maddening jumping puzzle. Can you make it to the top in time? Arenanet's first foray into actually difficult content. But there's no hint there that it's changed at all. Like, it just sounds like, oh, this is the Mad King's Clock Tower again. I hope that they've changed something, even if it's just altering the reward at the very top. I loved that jumping puzzle. Josh Foreman is a genius for inventing that jumping puzzle. But I would like to see some other changes. You know, maybe a hard mode, the tribulation mode equivalent of the Mad King's Clock Tower. Wouldn't that be cool? Just a little bit more on the Halloween front, guys. The Lunatic Inquisition. Join in player versus player madness and mayhem with the Lunatic Inquisition. Well, you'll play as either a villager desperate to survive or a maniacal lunatic courtier. Discover survival tools and hidden secrets within the labyrinth and try to survive the night. Again, this is another returning feature, but this was vastly underappreciated last year, and it's awesome. If you don't know what this is, let me describe it to you. If you've played the Halo series at all, or hell, even Call of Duty, okay? This is zombies. Well, no, this is Halo's version of zombies. Okay, so this is, you're on a team, you're trying to survive, and eventually you're going to get caught and die, and when you die, you join the other team. So the survivors, the villagers, slowly get whittled down and down and down and down until there's like the last man standing, and there's just a million people on the map trying to kill them. If you like that game type, but that's my best analogy to the Halo series. It's fantastic, really good. Unfortunately, the arena is undermined by 2 main things. First of all, it's basically hot join, so you can be the last man standing and then some douchebag randomly logs in and then it's like, oh, okay. Or one of the guys on the other team just quits and then reloads back in to be back on the villagers team. So that really ruined it last year. I would love to see that be changed. That really ruined the spirit of what that minigame was like. And the other problem is universal to all minigames Arenanet add. You cannot join with your party. You cannot play specifically with your friends, and during high activity hours for the game, it's very unlikely that you're all going to get into the same instance of that minigame, which sucks. So 2 things undermining it, but it is very, very fun, and I didn't really see much cover of it last year, so definitely would recommend. Something interesting on that note by omission is they've mentioned the Lunatic Inquisition. Last year, there was also another PvP minigame that was a Dota-style minigame. And that was fun too. I enjoyed that. That was a lot more structured and potentially a lot more competitive. Again, undermined by the fact that this one wasn't hot join, I don't think. But again, it was undermined by the fact you can play with your friends and you can like form proper teams for it. But there's no mention of that here at all. Just the Lunatic Inquisition, and the other mini-game is nowhere to be seen. Does that mean that they've removed it? Do they feel like that would be just a little bit too much feature bloat, and it would spread people out too much? I mean, it's the Halloween patch. We're going to have a lot of players around, right? And this spreads across, like, all NA players can be, like, pulled together. It doesn't matter your individual server, and all EU players can be together. So surely it can't be that. There were always people playing last year. That was an awesome minigame, though, and there's no mention, sadly. So we'll have to see whether that comes, whether they just forgot to put it on the release page. Would be a shame if it disappeared, I've got to say. A little bit down the page too, it goes on about rewards for the Halloween patch. I'll just bundle those in while we're still talking about Halloween stuff. Complete the Blood and Madness meta achievement to receive a mini candy corn elemental, and follow the storyline for a candy corn node for your home instance. The mini candy corn elemental is awesome. For those of you, again, who played the first game, Arenanet used to, every year, particularly towards the later years of the game's lifespan, they used to do art contests. There would be one for Winter's Day and there'd be one for Halloween, and members of the community could submit submit not just, you know, paintings that were done in Photoshop. In fact, Arenanet rarely favoured that stuff, but also real-life arts and crafts stuff that you took pictures of. They had art contests where you could just sort of submit Halloween-themed art that you'd made, and they would pick like 9-10 people who would win. And what's interesting about this is Arenanet have always been very exclusive with certain minis. One of the most recent minis to go into the game, Mini Sparkles, has got a lot of people up in arms because only a few people will ever get that mini. In the first game, they were not shy of doing this whatsoever, and you had these incredibly rare, sellable items out in the market that there were only ever like 9 in existence of. And this mini candy corn elemental we're getting this year in this Halloween patch for Guild Wars 2. In the first game, the mini candy corn elemental, I believe it even had the exact same name, was like the rarest thing in the game. The rarest thing, because it was only in the very last years they started giving out that mini, and they gave out like 9 one year as Halloween art contest winners and no more. So, like, if you saw one of those, it was big. It was a big deal. It was crazy to see something so rare. And so it's nice to see in Guild Wars 2, we just the regular Joe can get a chance at this mini if we complete all of the achievements for the patch, or the meta achievement at least. Also, they read here, Candy Corn Node for your home instance. Yeah, that makes sense. That's another little thing that they're doing to try and push people to the home instance. We already saw earlier in the year the Zephyrite ore was added to the home instance. The main thing with me, though, is it's like last year we had insane amounts of candy corn that just saturated the market for pretty much all year until they added a big sink for it with the Zephyrite update. Why are we now getting it? Like, if they're going to give it to us as a node in the home instance, they better make a lot of really expensive or good stuff to spend that candy corn stuff on. And indeed, if you read a little bit further down, it says Candy Cornucopia. You can trade candy corn for new Halloween items like a mini Bloody Prince, a 20-slot Halloween pail, so that'll be good for your inventories, and special crafting items needed for Halloween weapons. So it does seem like they've added a good sink for that. This means, guys, if you miss Halloween, then you miss the opportunity to get that node in your home instance for the rest of the year. Pretty big deal. So if you want to unlock it, at least get to play for a little while and unlock that for your home instance. I am still waiting for Azurite ore to go into the home instance because Sentinel's armor is just so expensive right now. But hey, I'll take candy corn in the meantime. Lastly, one final thing, the Mask of the Night. Participate in rounds of Mad King Says to prove your ability to obey the maniacal monarch's whimsies and earn yourself a Mask of the Night. I'm so humbled by this tiny little bit, okay? Again, I've been talking about the first game a lot because there's a lot to talk about with Halloween because it was such a big event in the first game. Guild Wars 1, these festivals, the highlight, the pinnacle, the absolute climax of these festivals was the moment where you got to meet the Mad King or whatever it was for that festival and get your hat. This unique hat that would be unable to get. It was like exclusive and it proved you played the game at this point. And people went bonkers over those hats. They loved them. And now in Guild Wars 2, this is so overshadowed by just a million other really strong and rich features. It's really humbling to see that it's still there. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is still the end of the event where people get their hat, and you should be excited about getting your hat. Yeah, there's loads of exclusive skins now that you'll be finding in the Black Lion store and here and there and everywhere, but the hat still remains, and that's still the end of the event, and I like that. I really do. But yeah, that's basically it for the Halloween stuff, guys. I will quickly take you through some other small little things. As with most of these patches, they don't just give us new features, they do refine the game as it is. So here, listen, they say that they've got some combat quality of life fixes with new ground targeting options, improvements to targeting, and a new optional way to display condition damage numbers. We're bringing in some great improvements to the way our combat works. This is in line with some leaked patch notes we had from a long time ago. Basically, the ground targeting, as far as I remember from that leak, is you can like click and drag now, so that you can have the benefits of fast cast ground targeting, but also you get to keep a reticle. Like, that's not so exciting to me though. The condition damage number revamp is though. This, as far as I'm aware, you know, like how if you're a warrior and you use 100 blades, it will just keep ticking that same number up and up and up until you see like 20,000 or something. I believe they're changing condition damage to do that, and it will have like its own little bleed icon there. So you will see, oh hey, I've done 30,000 bleed damage to this guy over the past 5 minutes instead of loads of mini little numbers, and I think that'll be a really strong change. That'll be really nice to see. Also, trait and skill tooltips. This one isn't so good. We have improved the tooltip system for traits and skills. Traits now display numbers, and skill tooltips will show how skills are affected by equipped traits. Quality of life stuff, yes, I agree, it's needed, and I'm happy they've put it in the game. Just not particularly exciting to me. I've already sort of taught myself what all the bugs and quirks and stuff of the trait system are, so it's nice to see that. Balance updates. This one is huge, though, very exciting. We've made a balanced pass on existing skills and traits with a focus on improving support builds in all parts of the game for all professions. And again, we've had a taste of this from the leak. Very interesting stuff. We don't know how much of that is even solid from that leak, blah, blah, blah. But really cool. They're really trying to push support this patch. So there's a lot of improvements. Like Staff Elementalists, I think are terrible. I'm sorry. They're good in some situations, but overall, I would rarely run a Staff Ellie. But Staff Ellies are getting like interesting stuff like Earth Achievement 4 on Staff now functions like a line of warding like Guardians get, or that's what that patch said. Conjure weapons as well. Some of you have been following me for a while know that I've wanted to do a conjure weapon video for a while. They're going to be changing conjure weapons in this patch, and I think that'll be a perfect opportunity for me to show you how they're functioning. And lastly, they are introducing the first World vs. World season. Starting on October 18th and running through December the 5th, we'll be hosting the first World vs. World season. We'll be splitting up worlds into leagues, and each world within a league will compete against every other world over the course of the season. Not only will you be rewarded for your team's season-long performance, but you'll also be rewarded each week that you participate. And they've talked a little bit about the rewards there too. That might actually bring me back to World vs. World. It will make me feel like it actually means something winning a matchup, do you know what I mean? And I would love to get some of those unique finishes and stuff, so that sounds very cool. But there you go, guys. That's the patch in a nutshell, mostly on the Halloween stuff. I hope you're all I'm excited about this. I really am. Curious what they're going to do with the lore, whether we'll get the answers that we seek, and how sort of shoehorned in this Sun character will be. But I guess time will tell. A little update as well on the channel, just so that you guys know. I did want to do a video on Gw2 in the general MMO space this week. I wanted to do it a while ago. I wanted to do it on Saturday. And every day I've got up and been like, right, okay, I'm really going to give it a shot. But I've come to a conclusion, guys. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about the general MMO scene at the moment, and I feel like it would be kind of stupid to put out a video on it. I think it's a really interesting topic, but I just don't know enough. So I think we're going to leave that one. We'll get back to sort of a regular schedule after this video. Thank you very much if you've managed to watch to the end. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful day, guys, and I guess I will see you when I see you in Halloween, I guess. Catch you next time, everyone.